Okay, yeah, I mean, we are in for an interesting year ahead in 2024. In a sense, there will be ample opportunities for any predictions made at this point to be derailed. So, in a sense, the first prediction is that any prediction might be derailed. But nevertheless, the real prediction of what I'm seeing the year ahead is that we are in for another weak year for the Chinese economy. There will be continued headwinds for the world's second largest economy, but also the economy, which is one of the most important one for shipping and commodities.
Interesting. What makes you so confident?
Well, I mean, we're talking a lot about various support measures for the Chinese economy. We are looking at stimulus coming through one after the other, et cetera, et cetera. However, as I'm saying, we have there's multiple factors, but to name three that will really have an impact here is one is high debt levels in the local governments across China. Another one is the property market in China. This saga has been going on forever, it feels like, and it will have a little bit more life in it to go on as well, and we'll see no end to it anytime soon. And finally, we look at the Chinese economy being facing deflationary pressures. Basically, we are looking at falling prices. None of this is really going to be particularly good news for anyone who's trying to drive domestic demand and domestic growth. So as a result, we're probably looking at Chinese growth, well, somewhere along the line what we saw last year, so just over 5%. That looks like a fairly realistic assessment. But nevertheless, in the context of China, that's quite modest growth, if one would say so. And 5%, well, that's what it's the base case at this point in time. But never, we would say that risks, if one were to put in reservations on this prediction, is would be mostly on the downside. Things can turn out worse rather than better, most likely for the Chinese economy.
That all being said, then, what do you think the implications are to the shipping markets?
For shipping and also by extension commodities, we probably will see a bit more of a disconnect between what we've seen in recent years. If you're starting off with commodities, given China's importance to the commodities trade, if we keep the global, the Chinese growth at the levels where we've seen, demand was unlikely to kind of pick up massively from the Chinese economy and the Chinese buyers. So for commodities, we're looking at some form of kind of sideways trading, in a sense where obviously we're going to see that's going to fluctuate throughout the year as various parts of the Chinese economy go through various peaks and troughs. But the other side to that is also prices are more likely going to be driven by the supply side rather than the demand side going into the year. So hence we will face a degree of volatility for commodities. Looking at shipping, in contrast, it's as often is the case with shipping, any form of global disruptions is usually good news for shipping. Um, at the moment, we're facing quite substantial, or this is a little bit beyond China, in a sense that shipping is facing a situation where two of its main canals, say the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal, well, facing severe restrictions. In the context of Panama Canal, it's lack of water basically, and we have seen the dryness and various restrictions as a result of that. Suez Canal per se doesn't have any restrictions, but getting to and from the Suez Canal is a little bit of a challenge at this point in time, with the attacks on commercial shipping taking place in the southern end of the Red Sea. Assuming that this is a development for the long term, nothing is really showing at this point in time that we will see immediate solution to either. We are seeing shipping in general getting increasingly diverted away from these canals, especially if you take a bit of a focus on the Suez Canal and the Red Sea. We have seen initially, we saw dry bulk being one of the least affected sectors within shipping here, but we're also seeing increasing number of attacks, seeing increasing number of dry bulk vessels diverting away from the area. So for dry bulk shipping, which is associated with the commodity trade, we're seeing the direct effect, even if we kind of the actual volumes of commodities may not shift so much for China, we will see a kind of increase in ton mile demand, and which will provide support for freight rates. On top of that, there is also the secondary effect that we might look at here as well, that container shipping was initially the most affected here, and we could potentially see, given the lack of containers, delays, you name it, whatever factors it will be, that the increasing number of containerized dry bulk commodities will actually shift over to the dry bulk shipping. So in that set, we'll see a degree of higher demand for volumes in dry bulk. So yeah, all in all, we could say in a nutshell, Chinese economy is not going to kind of take off. That's what it looks like for the year. Also, kind of keeping kind of commodity demand reasonably stable, but shipping, dry bulk shipping in this context, we could benefit with higher freight rates as a result of higher demand in terms of ton mile demand.
So almost paradoxically, Chinese demand will drop, but that's good news for dry bulk.
This the Whether the demand for China or not is if it's dropping or remaining reasonably stable. We could the offsetting effect here is like the saving grace for shipping is kind of the disruptions to global supply chains.